Hey, y'all. I bet you missed us. We're back. We're back today with Glam and Grind, and I'm Rach.
And I'm Julz.
And today we're going to talk about life lately because we've been kind of hit and miss lately and gone a little bit. So we're going to give you guys some updates and just what our crazy lives look like right now. And then we're going to go into a little bit of business because we have to talk business. We're going to talk about the benefits of a triple net lease. And we're just hope that Julie doesn't fall off the camera while
Okay. I wanted to tell you something. I didn't want to interrupt, but my name was wrong. And so I was trying to fix it. And then I pushed the keyboard down that is supported by a bowl at this time. And it just came at me while you were talking. So I was like, oh gosh. Anyways, hello everyone and welcome to the shit show that we are. So anyways, real life talk. So Rach, catch us up. What has gone on in the last quarter for you? It's been crazy.
It's been crazy. We closed on our most recent acquisition, which was the 2 schools in Utah, and I can say them now, Children's Classic.
Yay!
And we are now in the process of rebranding. We're keeping part of that legacy because it's a 60-year-old business legacy. So we're keeping part of that for our rebrand. And then we're finishing up our transition from Bozeman and then transition from Utah. So we're at the end of our transition with our 5 new acquisitions, which has been crazy, fun, wild ride. And also we are doing some updates on the lake house, which is fun. Just a few little updates, and we're getting a new boat, which is fun. So we're getting ready for summer and all of the fun things that come along with summer. And my goal is I told Eric, my goal is to learn how to surf so good that by the time Zeke, our grandbaby, is 2, he can surf with me.
On the front of the board. So yeah. I'll talk a little bit about our surfing experience we just did, but okay, I'll just talk about it now, whatever, right? Yeah. So since we're just dishing about life for this podcast right now, so Zoe and I did a mom and daughter program with Bethany Hamilton. If you don't know who Bethany Hamilton is, you should really look her up. You should watch the movie Soul Surfer. It's super cute, especially if you have teen girls. It talks a lot about overcoming adversity, which is a huge part of teenage life. Like, let's face it, all of us had a ton of adversity to get over in teenage life. So she had particular adversity. She lost a limb. I mean, that is definitely more invasive than anything we go through, although it feels sometimes like you lose parts of yourself through teenage trials and tribulations. So we did a mom and daughter program. It was every Monday night. It was particularly for girls that were 12 to like 15, 16. I'd say that was the range that most of the girls were. So there was about 25 moms and 25 girls who really connected over 4 days of like just congregation and like talking about momhood. And the girls went off and they had their own time. Moms went off, we had our own time. Then they had one-on-ones with Bethany talking about adversity and overcoming it. And then we all surfed together. So Bethany surfed with us. It was super fun. We love surfing. Zoe and I love the water. It's kind of our, like, what we connect over is the ocean and the water and the aloha life. Like, this is our jam. So we spent those days on Kauai, 4 full days with Bethany. And it was just honestly incredible. So I've been in Hawaii the last 3 weeks. We left May 20 something and got back on Tuesday. So I'm still in this zone of like trying to figure out time changes and all the things. But I had a podcast before this one today. So I actually had to get ready and like do my hair. So I was like, oh, if we're recording today, this would be great because I'm already ready. So, but yeah, so the past few months, what have we been doing? We have been looking for businesses, particularly some legacy businesses we can involve the kids with. We definitely need, some tax write-offs for some money that we got in this year as well. We still have, some funds in Canada we're trying to deal with and bring over and try to do the most lucrative thing we can with that. We have teenage boys that started their own business this summer. So I've been, a VA secretary, ground, all the things. They started a business called Mulch Moguls. So the boys are doing like yard work, landscaping, mulching, all kinds of fun stuff, but they love it. And they are super solutionists. They came up with the name, they came up with the logo. Super
like
solutionists. Yeah. They came up with their logo. They came up with their merch. They opened an LLC through LegalZoom. We just got the EIN in. They've, secured insurance. They've bought equipment. They're working like crazy. They love it. Why they did it though was because I expect them to have a job, but I also expect them to travel with the family. Like, what the heck?
Right.
So they're like, Mom, no one's hiring us when we're gone 3 weeks in June and 4 weeks in July. So like, what do you want us to do? I said, well, what do you think you can do? And so they're like, we're going to open a business because we can have time freedom and flexibility. And I was like, great job, guys. So I feel like that was great for them. And so
they're speaking your love language.
They are, and they love it. And, it's giving them some wealth, and, they'll have some money to invest, and they really want to invest in some of our triple nets that are coming up. And we'll talk about that later. But so they're pumped, and I'm excited for them. Other than that, let's see what else has been going on. Lots of travel. We've literally just been traveling a lot. Like I said, looking for some businesses. We have some real estate.
It's smart that you are planning out, which you always do, and you're good at this, but you're not only planning out your tax strategies now in Q2, but you're also teaching all of us and all of your followers these tax strategies now, so that we're not like in Q3 or Q4 even like, holy shit, I have to do all of this, buy all this stuff, or do what I need to do for this tax savings. So
yeah,
that's great that you're sharing that with us now to help.
Yeah, we feel like it's really important to meet quarterly for tax strategy, because in Q3 or Q4, sometimes it's like too late, right? Like if you have to buy another business or you need to do something big, sometimes you need a 3 to 6 month lead time. Well, if it's November and y'all are calling me and you're like, I have to get rid of 500 grand now, Julie, then I'm stressing out for all of you and trying to find stuff. And, lots of you called me December 31st last year and we're like, hey, give me ideas to dump cash today. I'm like, oh my God, it's New Year's Eve, but we did it, so.
Hey, I bought a business December 28th.
I know. You're part of the people I'm talking about. But honestly, the thing is that the more prepared you can be, right, for this tax strategy planning, the better. And so I have now switched to quarterly tax planning, where we just look at, okay, what's happened this quarter? What do we need to eradicate? Okay, what have we brought in on assets? And I'm constantly looking at that I want to call it a P&L, my personal P&L. It's a professional or whatever, PFS. Yes, financial statement.
I've done so many of those this year.
I know. And so we constantly are looking at it, but it is truly my P&L, because it's how I manage without a business, what we're doing asset wise, liability wise, what's our ratio, what's our DSCR, how are we working this in, what is our tax liability going to look like, right? So, I feel like
slow down. What's a PFS? Tell everybody what a PFS is.
PFS is a personal financial statement, and you should be doing that on a regular to know exactly where you are. So on that statement, one side will list your assets, which means anything that's coming in that either you've already bought or own, or cash flows. On the other side, you'll have something called liabilities, which is anything that you owe, are in debt for, are carrying notes for, have any loans or debt on, or that has a balance of debt. And so then you take column A, you minus column B, and then you have what's called your net worth, or your net personal worth. And that number there is what people will ask you in different transactions. And then underneath that, they'll list assets or liabilities that don't fit in those two. There's some special stuff that you can list at the bottom, like longer term savings and things like that, or retirements, or whole life policies, or be your own bank, like all the things that we talk about in our higher level groups, which, is not really important right now. But the thing that you need to know is that you need to know what you're worth. Like, what are those assets? How are you carrying them? What's your liabilities? What's the ratio of assets to liabilities? So what's the ratio of plus to minus in your accounts? And yeah, just what you're worth. And so I use that as a guide, and I take that and kind of look at, okay, what have we added as assets, and what type of money is that bringing in, and do I have things to offset it? And if I don't, okay, what do we need to buy to get that leveraged better in the percentage, I guess, of debt to income ratio for tax purposes. So we also meet with our tax strategy just about, hey, like what's coming up? Like, is anything coming up that's due or that's going to be bringing money in a larger amount? So we can say, oh, okay, we have to mitigate this now, right? And so it's just really important to know where you're at. And it wasn't supposed to be a business conversation, but it really, everything in my life is a business conversation. But yeah, I think you have to be strategic and intentional if you really want to create the situation where you're being proactive about your money and keeping as much money as you can in your pocket, right? That's the goal of the game is not what you make, what you keep, right? So, so just always have that in mind and be strategic about it. So part of our strategy is buying real estate to combat income. And so we have been doing that too in the past couple months, adding to our portfolio. But yeah, so really, I don't know. We haven't done super exciting stuff except travel, which is always exciting. We're going away again too in the next couple weeks. So I'm just trying to regroup here.
I know that's fun, but I'm at the stay home phase.
Yes.
This is my summer where I try to stay home every summer, but really this summer I've been asked to speak at multiple events and I've turned all of them down because I'm trying really hard to protect our summer because I'm so crazy busy the rest of the year that it's like, okay, summer that's how I don't, I same as you, I don't really believe in balance, but I feel like that's how I have those
mitigate it. Sure. Yeah. And I feel the same. Like, we were asked to speak at some things together this summer. And I just like, that's my time where I have all 4 of my kids home normally still, right? They're still at the age where they still want to come home and see us. So, because otherwise they're at college or, doing their own thing. So, and I think next year now with Mulch Moguls, they'll take off and they'll start planning spring and they're not going to probably travel with us. Or if they do, maybe it'll be 1 or 2 weeks, right? It's not going to be like the amount of travel that we've been doing. So I feel like the time is limited where you can have all your kids at home. And so if you can strategically plan for downtimes, right? Like summer where you can say, hey, we can just kind of pop in and out of travel and just be more free and not have as many commitments, I guess. Like even with work, right? Like my clients, things like that. Like I'm strategic about only taking so many because I don't want to have to try to fit in 25 people a week or something while I'm away, right? So I think it's important and you want to be there for people that need you. And so it's important to also when you're planning, like if you're transitioning careers, for example, and a lot of people are going into coaching. I'm seeing every day more and more coaches, but I think the thing is too, they don't understand like for you to be an effective coach or for you to make a difference, you have to be available. And so I think this mass coaching schedule I've seen. Sorry, I just swallowed my spit. The mass coaching schedules, I feel like that's a bit of a challenge if you have people that need help and you're away or, then you have all these commitments that you're failing on. So I feel like you have to be strategic too about what you take on. Like the summer is that's for your kids and you protect your summers. And it's important to just manage your schedule to what harmony looks like for you,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said something about your hair. I think everybody wants to know about your gorgeous hair. We went to Atlanta, Julie and I think that's where we were. And everywhere we went, it was Julie's hair and something else that everyone kept asking us about. Was it my bag? I don't know. Something.
I don't know. I can't remember, but
people kept stopping and asking everybody or, wanting to know about her hair. So Julie, tell us about your beautiful hair.
Yes, so I've had my hair for 10 years. I really have had pretty much the same style, whether it's straight or curly. My hair is decently long. I'm trying to figure out like where it ends now. I would say like here probably. But I have fine hair and I don't have like definitely not all this. This is enhanced. So I use and have been using for 10 plus years extensions. Vernon laughs about them all the time, but legit, they are awesome. They're called Bellamy. Bellami. And my stylist, Vanessa, if she's listening, she is my favorite person on earth because she knows exactly what I like and how to do them. Initially, I started with tape-in extensions, and now I do weaves, like just the sewn-in. It's awesome because you can flip it up. It's not really noticeable. It's less noticeable. I don't have any tapes that show that kind of stuff. I used to do a hybrid, like a little bit of both, but now my front has gotten a lot healthier and is longer, so I can manage just not having the tape in. So yeah, so I have Bellamy extensions. They're awesome. You can find them online, but you really do need someone who can install them really well because
they're sewn in the way that, well, yours sewn in. The ones that I get are sewn in. Yeah.
Hand sewn. Yeah. So they're called hand tied extensions and they're sewn. She sews them in. So there's a little bead on each and then she kind of puts it on and then sews it in. And so I have I think I've got 2 layers right now. I had 3 at one point. I don't know. No, maybe I have 3 still.
3 when I
have 3. Yeah.
Back in 2 weeks, something like that.
But I'm going to use Bellamy this time.
I am. I had Donna Bella before. And I started, I never did tape in because I have the fine hair. So I was afraid
they would show,
rip my hair out, whatever. I had the like little beads.
Yeah, so nano beads. I had those too.
So she did like individual.
I had those too.
And you could see them sometimes. And the worst part is I'd be like walking down the road or walking through the hotel and like chunks would fall out.
I know, dude. I had those too back 10 years ago. It was a way different process, right? So like I went through the whole extension drama, like the little tiny nano beads, the ones that you used to burn on. Remember those? Like, and they would crack them. Yep.
Yeah.
Fusion beads. Yeah. And I had K something, keratin, K something. Yeah. I've had all the hair. This is the best hair, and this is the best process, and it's quicker.
The best for your head too, because with the little beads, they used to fall out, and like chunks of my hair would like fall out.
That did happen with me still occasionally with the tapes, you know. Then I went to full this, and I really don't see.
With the full weave, it doesn't damage your hair.
I don't see a lot of loss.
I didn't. Put it that way. My hair has gotten, my real hair has gotten the longest and thickest it's been in a long time. And because I switched to the weave like Julie has. I have the halo too. So I use the halo. I don't like for our photo shoots and things like that when I don't have my extensions in, which I love that too. I actually really do love the halo. It's a really good one.
Yeah, I don't do that because
I think it's whatever it's called, Bellamy.
Yeah.
Bellamy.
Halo. So I don't know if you know, but Bellamy means beautiful friend.
Oh,
and friend. So I think it's like make your friend beautiful by using Bellamy. Very good. So I love the product though. It's great. It comes from, well, I don't know. I learned about it in California, and I actually had my girl here when I moved to Omaha because I couldn't bring my girl from Canada. I had her go do the training in Vegas, and she's like, I'll do it for sure. So I was like, great. So she comes, actually, we do it privately. So it's awesome. And she comes and she does my whole family, which is great. So I love her. Anyways, so yeah, that's the story on my hair. If anyone wants to know, you can follow up, email me or text me and I'll give you the name. But it's bellamy.com online, and your hairdressers can buy it professionally for way less money at bellamyprofessional.com. And so I always just have Vanessa buy them and pay her. You know,
that's what I do too. She matches it to my hair. They have like little
match.
Yeah.
Just like
a carpet.
Yes, and I changed the colors. So like this time I did like a triad blend. So it has a little red, kind of like a little strawberry in it for summer. And then in the winter I'll go a little darker because I don't want to do the roots as much. It's a whole thing, but I love it. And I think I'll do it forever, or as long as I can anyways, before I look ridiculous with long hair because I'm getting old. So I'm not sure how long I'll be able to pull it off, but till I can pull it off, I'm going to do it. So I love my extensions.
Yeah. And you wear yours down a lot or in braids. I actually put mine in ponytail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can put it up, but I bun it a lot at home. Like I'll throw it up, but it's heavy. I found like I get headaches and migraines if I have my hair up too much. So I wash it once a week. It's amazing. I do dry shampoo in the middle. I use Aveda dry shampoo. It's a shaker bottle. It's awesome. It's the best one I've found. It smells great. It lasts me like 8 months. It's this small.
Even with your thin hair, you can go a whole week?
Oh, Rachel, I could go a month if I used Aveda, but I won't. But I could go, I've gone 2-3 weeks before when I've been traveling.
Wow, I need to get that.
So it's Aveda. Yeah. So while we're on here, I think we should drop products we use too. Seriously. So Aveda, you can buy it on Amazon, but I get it from the Aveda shop here. It lasts me over 6 months. Sometimes it'll last me a year, depending on how much you use. A little bit. I put it in my hand. I go like this, and then I just like put it in all the spots that contain oil, right? And then I put it at the back, like, your nape of your neck, your around your ears, the top and the back. It smells incredible. Like Bo's always like, oh, did you wash your hair? I'm like, no, I didn't, but yes. And it's like literally just a shaker bottle. So you use very little for it and it just absorbs the oil. It's like and it's natural. So you're not putting like talcum powder and all the cancer shit in your hair. So I love that. And then people always ask me what I do for my skin. Like they always ask because I don't get Botox. I've never gotten anything on my face. I never put any needles in my face. And they're like, Julie, like you're 50. I do have wrinkles though. Like I have some serious 111s here if you can see them. But what I'm going to tell you is I use soap and water, like literally Ivory or Dove soap. I do nothing on my face, but hyaluronic acid every single day. Girls, if you can start that at 20, you will be laughing. I started late. I even put it on the top of my hands
and my neck.
Look, for my age, I should have a lot more wrinkles. That stuff is bomb.com. I use Trish McAvoy. It's a little pricey, I will admit, but it goes a long way. Just need a little. I use the eye one here and then the face and neck and the top of my hands because you don't want those old lady hands.
I know.
Anyway,
that's why Dolly Parton wears gloves.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So like, I'm very veiny, but at least I'm not wrinkly. So I'm trying to do that every day. But that's all I really do. But a lot of people ask, like, what do you do? What do you use for your face? Trish McAvoy, hyaluronic face serum and eye serum. That's it. That's all I use. Every morning I wash my face.
Because which I don't know the name of it right now.
Hyaluronic you do? Mm-hmm. Or retinol?
No, I use retinol, but I also use oil because I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember what it's called. But living in Montana and Utah, going back and forth between Montana and Utah,
the temperature change. Well, and it's cold too.
So dry. I was in Utah last week, and somebody was like, "How did you like that Utah heat?" And I said, "It felt like the Dementors were sucking the soul out of me, my skin." That's what it feels like. So that's why I need like oil, which sounds ridiculous because as you're like, why are you gonna put oil on your face? But same thing, I put it on the back of my hands and whatever. And Botox.
Yeah, I have naturally oily skin because I'm Italian. So like I drip oil, so I can't use any oil. So I will do the opposite. Like if I use anything, it has to be like non-oil because I literally feel like I could skate on my face.
That's probably also why your skin is so nice.
Yeah, my grandma too, she's like 94 and she still has beautiful skin and everyone comments on that. And it's because I think we're so oily. Like you can't stop. you can't stop the oil. So
Yeah.
you're constantly nice and drenched. But yeah, so Bo uses oil though, because he's got like Hawaiian skin and he gets super dry. But we also live in humidity climates. So like when we're in Hawaii, it's more humid. You have the water here. I don't know why, but in Omaha, Nebraska, it's humid as well. So I think we just lucked out with like more.
I like humid.
Yeah, I don't like it for my hair, but I like it for my skin. And I also hate the water we have in Omaha. It's super hard. So we don't have a water, whatever, softener, which we should have did, because it's literally like calcium. You can see the white. So like your hair doesn't love it, but anyways. And for hair products, I really don't do much either. I use Aveda. I use Shampure, it's called, shampoo, and Shampure conditioner. I get the big liters that she buys. They last me like a year. And for the amount of times I wash my hair, I don't really need that much shampoo.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to be switching to that.
Yeah, try it, Rach. I think you're going to love it.
The other day at the, like, even that is a stretch for my hair because it's just so oily.
Yeah, I think you just need to put that in there. It kind of acts as an absorbent. And like because I had, especially when I was younger, really oily hair. And Zoe, she's more oil producing in her hair, and she uses dry shampoo too. It's great. So yeah, the Aveda works for us for sure. So yeah.
Okay. So now you're on to this new venture again.
Oh, you mean like buying real estate?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
So what you're buying, but let's talk a little bit about triple net leases and sales leasebacks.
Yeah. So, well, you can talk about sale leasebacks too, because any business owner that has real estate really should be doing that process, right? So
I didn't know this for years and years and years.
Really?
Probably 8 years into owning my own buildings, I hadn't been doing that because I didn't know. So that's something that's been definitely beneficial
new for us. Okay, so tell me how you found out about it. Like, how did you start doing it, or why? Or
I think it was probably from, Chris Murray, or, one of the groups that we were part of, that somebody said they were doing that, or it might have been even Alex when she, when we partnered up and she talked about it, and I was like, what? You can lease it to yourself and make money off of that? Like, what?
Crazy.
I couldn't wrap my brain around it for the longest time and Eric couldn't wrap his brain around it, because I would say, we have to lease it to ourselves for what the going rate, for market rate.
So stop. I'm going to stop you right there for 1 second, because that is a huge piece people miss. So people think we should rent our building from ourselves, so step one is perfect, right? You buy the building in a different LLC. So let's just call it, I'm Julie Roy. My business is called ABC Childcare Center. I am Roy Holdings, which owns the real estate. Roy Holdings is going to rent to ABC Julie's Daycare for a certain amount of money per month. Triple net, meaning that childcare center is going to pay for taxes, insurance, any expenses, all the things. So landlord Roy Holdings, Julie, is going to charge this company rent. This company pays the rent. Now, the biggest mistake people make here, Rachel, is that they're like, great, I'm going to charge myself really cheap rent.
Yes, that's where I made the first mistake.
Yes, that's always mistake number one that we see when I have clients or anybody that comes to me and is like, hey, I'm ready to sell. And then we're like, ooh, this is bad. Because when anybody's going to buy you or anything, bank loans, all the things, they're going to ask you, are you charging yourself market rent? And so people say, like, what does that even mean? It means that, like, if you had to rent this building from somewhere else, even half a block away, that rent would be the same. So it would be like $12 or $14 or $16 a square foot, whatever the average rent for that type of industry should be what you're renting yourself. Did you hear the snap? That's my kid eating in the background.
Yes,
and I'm not sure why. When I'm taping, he's got to be eating right now. So sorry, listeners, for the pizza Ziplocs and this mom snapping happening in the background. So anyways, you'll probably hear more of it because he's going to continue. And he's looking at me like, now, like what? Anyway, so charge yourself market rent. So the first thing that you need to do is figure out what the market rent is in the area. So why I stopped you when you said market rent was because most people, they go right to, I'm going to charge myself the littlest I can so that I get the biggest return.
Or the mortgage, just the mortgage.
Right.
And what I did, I charged myself the mortgage, which doesn't pay for insurance, tax, all of that other stuff. And I also didn't charge myself for maintenance or any of that. So then we were doing maintenance on our own buildings, but the business was paying for it, but we weren't writing it off as a leaseholder improvement. It was a mess. We were doing all the wrong things. So I've learned over the years, also, when you're getting ready to sell, like Julie was saying, some of the acquisitions that we looked at purchasing hadn't been charging themselves market rate for years and years and years. Then they decided
we went through this, right?
Yes, that they were going to change it to market rate. However, the business couldn't sustain that lease.
Or the banks want a historical record of market rent payments, meaning when you go to sell and you're like, oh, great, no, I'm going to change this to market rent now. Now you change your entire pro forma of what you were making. So if you were making 20%, now you're making maybe 10 or 15 when you charge market rent. So then the bank's like, I'm not funding this deal because the ratio is too low from income to what you would be paying out or your expenses are. So it's really, really important that you're charging yourself market rent if you're doing a sale leaseback, which is you owning the building, you owning the business, but your ownership in the building is charging your ownership in the business. Yeah, ownership in the building is charging your ownership in the business. It has to be just like anybody else would be paying in the area. So you're not helping yourself by charging yourself less rent. One, because if you're just covering the mortgage, why are you even doing this transaction? Number one. Number two, it isn't a saleable situation because it does affect your EBITDA or what your expense ratio is at the end of the day when you do have to charge market rent. And then they will come to you and say, well, you're going to charge us market rent, so we're not going to make what you're making on the business now. And then oftentimes it's not sustainable. So that's a huge, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people that do this sale leaseback or this triple net to themselves especially, they don't understand that you also have to have a markup between your mortgage and what you're collecting, because your whole idea of creating this business creating this building business to sell to your business or rent to your business is to create something called a net positive income. So like you should have something you're making monthly as a net income between this building business and this business that's renting. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm trying to make it simple.
Let's talk about, because this isn't something that I have done and I'm getting ready to do. How you talked about when you buy a building and then you sign, the business leases it from you. So you're now the building owner. You set up rent increases as part of the deal. And that's not something that I have done as the leaseback business owner, but I'm going to change my leases to have those markups built in because that's also going to help with our predictions and our budgeting and, our pricing in the future and all of that, because we're going to have that built in. So talk a little bit about how you kind of map that out.
Yeah. So what I would say is, initially, what you're going to want to do is you want rental increases as part of your lease for two reasons. One, you want your business and your building business, I'm going to call it, because that's the one that's holding the building. You want that real estate to appreciate, right? So the only way it's appreciating in the market, but appreciating to yourself is if that rental increases happening, then your NOI, what the lease is making, your net operating income, that has to be increasing as well, because there is inflation and you have to combat that every year, right? So we have something called a 2% rent escalation every year of our leases for the first 10 years of our leases. And we usually pay them out every 5 years, so that you're not doing like changes in, ACHs every year. We'll do 5%, 10% every 5 years, or 2% a year, but we just charge it on the 5th year. So the rent bump would happen on the 5th year. That would be a 10% rent bump. And then the 10th year, another 10% rent bump. And then in every extension. So if we have a 10-year base lease with 4 or 5-year extensions, there would be a 10% increase in each of those extensions. So you're technically going to increase the value of your NOI, say 50% over like 5 extensions, or one, every 5 years, basically, you'll increase by 10%. So it's important to, when you're creating a lease, put those rent escalations in even for yourself, because if you sell the business and you keep the real estate, now you have the rent bumps in there, everything is good to go, and you sell that lease, or that lease gets transferred to the new owner, and then all those rent bumps are already, there's not the negotiation, it's already part of what happens, right? So you just transfer the lease to the new owner. So you want to do it so that it makes sense. Like, you don't want to put yourself out of business by doing rent bumps, right? So you have to do something reasonable. You can't be like, oh, every year we have a 10% rent bump. No one's going to sign for that. But typical triple net leases have 2% or 10% every 5 years. And then that will depend as well on industry and things like that. But I would say the typical lease has escalations of 2% a year, which are charged every 5 years at 10%. So you'd have a rent bump at 5 years plus 1 day, then 10 years plus 1 day, so that would accumulate some NOI for you nicely.
This is, and we've talked about this offline before, but
this is our one-on-one today, Rachel. That we could never get together with, but yes.
You typically, and people, investors, and we've talked about this, are typically paying cash when they're buying these buildings. Now, as a business owner, oftentimes we don't pay cash for our buildings because we're protecting our cash flow. So now, what would you do in the case, and I'm in this situation myself, to where one of our buildings we bought on an adjustable rate mortgage, which I would never do again, but it was an SBA. And so now we're in this situation where the typical 2% or whatever you're saying isn't even going to cover the mortgage. So how would you handle that situation?
So don't buy adjustable rate mortgages.
I know.
But if you are buying adjustable rate mortgages, that's fine for yourself. But like someone incoming, that wouldn't affect you. Do you see what I'm saying? Because that would affect their cash flow, but not yours. So it really only matters if you're the one paying that mortgage, right? And you're the one paying that rent. If you're dual purpose, paying the rent and the mortgage, then you probably have to increase your rent enough to cover it. Now, that is going to put a damper on what you're making, because if your rent, if your mortgage rate was at 5% and now it's at 7.5%, that 2.5%, like you have to charge yourself that. Otherwise, you're actually in a deficit, right? So your company, your business has to make up for it. It sucks. And you can't do that for new people, right? So when you do rent for new people, you would base it on the new market rent of your area. And most market rents are going up because they have to cover, these types of loans. But for when it's yourself, you would just increase, like you just pay it. Like you do the increase, you create a new lease for yourself, an addendum or an adjusted lease, and you say, hey, like our mortgage is this and we're paying that and we need the difference to be covered. So that's basically, that's basically what I would do. And if it's, like I said, if you're leasing out to other people or someone buys the business, then you do the rent based on market rate, because they have to deal with the mortgage and what they're dealing with on their end, as long as it's covering. Now, if you're in a deficit, then you really can't sell the building until you figure that out, right? Because no one's going to buy a building that's deficiting every month. And even you don't really want to probably carry that. Right? That mortgage, if the loan is not going to cover it. So you have to get that fixed before you would think about, selling to another party.
Yeah. Yeah. And with SBA, I mean, this is a different conversation, but you have all of the fees, the payoff
Pre-penalty. Yeah.
fees. So yes, that's another thing.
So another thing you can do with the pre-penalty fees is I've had this happen. So we take the loan to a conventional bank because we've been paying it for a while, and they pay the pre-penalty fees for you up front. They've done that for us twice now. So as long as they get the new mortgage and it makes sense for you, like they've paid $40,000 to $150,000 off for us, but they make it by creating a new loan with you.
Yeah.
They originate a new loan for 20 years or something. And so they're going to make well more than that. And a lot of banks will do that. The problem is right now is the rates, right? At the end of the day, if your cap rate, I'm going to talk a little bit real estatey here, but if your cap rate or the rate that you're making on the rent, for example, is like 7%, if the bank is charging you 8 or 9, you're going to be upside down on the rent. There's no way you can charge market rate like at a cap rate of 9 or 10. Like it's just not possible. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, or the opposite, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So you can't have your rental rate sometimes match what the interest is. Like right now, that's a lot of people's issue. So you have to make up for it. If you're the owner, you have to make up for the difference. So it's really important too, when you're negotiating, to think about your long-term plan and what you want to do. And if it's worth buying the building or if it's worth continuing to lease. Most private equity companies are not going to buy the real estate. You would be selling that to a separate entity, a REIT, or a separate private investor, or a family office, or someone that would actually take the real estate and pay you for the triple net leases that you have in place, right? So it's not normally going to be one buyer for real estate and business. So there's almost always two. It's better to have two transactions. It's better for you.
So as an investor and you're very first starting out, what would you recommend people are looking for as far as they know they want to buy something that they can triple net lease out? So what are they looking for?
It depends on what their targets and their goals are. So like people that need bonus depreciation or write-offable income tax deductions for passive income they already have, they need to look for more multifamily things that have 4+ more units in their building, because that
So 4+ more is considered multifamily. So a duplex isn't considered multifamily.
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if it's 4 or more, you can live in it, can be owner occupied. Right now, they have great loans for new home buyers. I talked to you a little bit about this the other day, but if you have kids that are in that 20-year age, they're ready to move out onto their own. If you can find them, the hard part is finding the right real estate, but if you can find a 4-plex and they live in one and they charge rent in the other 3, it's a way better situation than owning their own home, because now they're mitigating their living expenses with other people paying for it. And they're making some net income, right? So they're starting passive income. And there's a program called Welcome Home. It's a state program. It's helping new homeowners be able to afford homes. So they'll grant up to $20,000, I believe, and depends on which state, 15 or 20, on your down payment. There are some parameters. You have to have a decent credit score. You have to be making, I think it's less than $50,000 a year to start, which most kids are making less than that. And so you'd have to check the parameters in your state, but it is way better for them to buy an income producing property and actually have an asset that cash flows than for them to buy a home that's not cash flowing, that they continually have to pay into mortgage, taxes, repairs, daily living stuff, right? So I'm really pushing my kids in that realm. So they own multifamily. If you're a new investor and want passive income to replace active income eventually, so to start piling your passive income up, then I would do more things like triple net, things that have a more consistent, stabilized, even if it's less percentage wise, it's more stabilized and you know what you're getting every month. It's more predictable, it's more sustainable. multifamily is great, but it's like this, like, because every month you have occupancy, you have repairs, you have restoration, you have a leak, you have, so there's like a lot of expense. You have property management, you have people moving out, people moving in. So you have a less stabilized cash flow.
Yeah.
But with multifamily, you have a bigger bang on the end. If you can wait for the end, you have a better multiple generally on sale. And you have a little bit more interest, like you'll make a little bit more for your money, but it's less stabilized. So I am in an age group, and what I like is that passive income, because I sold my businesses, so I don't have income that comes in like I did before, right? So my income becomes the priority. And then obviously I want to make sure I eradicate the tax. So I do the triple net that comes in for income. The multifamily eradicates the tax. I have like a trifecta strategy. You can find it on my website, thejulieroy.com. I'm going to plug it only because it's much easier. There's a little downloadable book. You can read it. It's easier. It's hard to understand when you're just talking about it. You kind of have to see it. But so it really depends on what your goals and your targets are. If you are more risky and are younger and have a lot of time to play with, you might want to do things like storage and industrial, car washes, things that have bonus depreciation, but maybe they don't hit until 5, 7, 10 years. Like you have more of a multiple down the road. So what I would suggest is create targets first. Like, what are your goals? Is it active income replacement? Is it, monthly cash flow? Is it eradication of tax? First, like, what's your big goal? And then invest to create a solution for whatever you need for that goal. Sometimes it's a little mix of both. Like ours is really a mix of 3.
Yeah.
And we found a happy medium doing it that way. But in the beginning, our triple net, our sale leaseback was what we did because we were business owners. So it was what we knew how to do.
Yeah.
And then we did multifamily because we had a tax problem, right? So like, I think we just got into things as we needed solutions. So it's hard for me to say which one should you do first, because I don't know what financial situation you have, right? So, and it's really personal, and it also depends on your risk tolerance. Some people are fine with a lot of risk. I'm more like moderate to mild. It
depends on your phase of life, like you said.
Yeah.
The phase of life that you're in is different than the 25-year-old who's just starting to invest,
and has 50 years to fool around with their money, right? Like, I'm 50, I don't want to go back to that. So I'm like, I just would rather have a less percentage, but stabilized and know what I'm getting, right?
Yeah.
But that's just because our age and,
And I'm in a higher risk position too, because I'm in a shorter time frame to get to sit with Julie on the beach. So
and we are working on that daily, folks. Yes. I don't want to die before I don't want to die before Rachel can sit on the beach. So so if you're pushing more for like efficiency too, right? There's products that will get you there faster, but there is usually the higher percentages have the more risk. That's normally how it goes, right? So you get a little less interest or a little less return on stuff that's less risky, right? And then you get more return on more risky things, but there's risk. So again, it's just like where you find yourself in that schema. But yeah, so triple net has nuances too. Like, there's some things that we have to do when we buy triple net. You have to look for location, like make sure what you're buying, your location is paramount. It's excellent. We look for something called VPD. So there's a vehicle per day allotment that we look for. We want to make sure that there's a good traffic flow. We make sure there's a light. We only buy stuff, especially if it's retail, that has a drive-through since COVID, because that would have killed a lot of people during COVID. We only buy in landlord-friendly states. That is a parameter for us. That is because during COVID, a lot of non-landlord-friendly states had squatters and were not paying rent, and there was no way to get that would have bankrupted our portfolio had we not had the rent coming in, right? So that's something to also think about when you're looking at where you're buying. The other thing that we look at is obviously return on investment, what the appreciation is like, who the company that's renting from, does it have a corporate guarantee, what does that look like, what are all the nuances. We do environmentals on all our properties. We make sure we check all of the easements. We make sure that we are doing Alta surveys and things to make sure that when we're buying these properties, all the check marks are done so that we never have, oh, all of a sudden someone's going through our building because we didn't check the easements, or, so we always bring in a real estate lawyer. We clear title, we make sure all those things are done. We also cost segregate all of our properties. And that's something that is very helpful if you're a business owner to do, especially if you need an eradication of tax for passive income. Without buying anything else, you can do your own, but don't do more than one a year unless you really need it, because it does not carry over for those. So you want to make sure that you're not over cost segregating or doing all your properties in 1 year. Talk to your tax. I
did do it 1 year, but it was because I had a big building and then a small building. And this year we happened to have a lot of tax that we needed to eradicate. So it worked out that year, but I wouldn't do that on a normal basis.
Right. So the bottom line is, I'm not a tax strategist. I'm not a CPA. We're not financial advisors. We're only talking to you, disclaimer, about our personal experience. We always suggest you talk to your tax strategist, your financial advisor, your real estate people, your legal team, your bench, to see where you're at with these things. We're just giving you ideas of what we've done. It could work for you. So maybe bring it up. If you haven't, ask them like, hey,
always ask questions.
Could I cost segregate? What does that look like? What would that give me? Does that give me a leg up? Would that help me with some tax? What do you suggest? How much do I need? Like Rachel said, this year she's bought 5 businesses. She won't need tax write-offs for a couple of years, because that will eradicate all of her write-offs. Even though she's coming in with money, she's got a lot of upfront money that she can release. If you sell or finance, you have less. So you have to be careful. You have to meet with your tax strategist, because you don't have that big bang of depreciation coming in. So you have to be careful with that. But if you're buying a lot of businesses, usually that will eradicate quite a bit of your tax. So like our accountant always says, if you're really heavy on cash flow, buy business, like buy something, because it will help you with that tax bracket. And of course, don't just buy any business, buy a cash flowing business, but that's a whole conversation for another day. But basically just to be, cognizant of what you're buying, that it is in a good area, that you'd be able to walk the area at night and feel comfortable with what you're buying. Make sure that you do a crime check. There's a bunch of stuff online that you can download for demographics. So what does the crime in the area look like? If the map is entirely red, are you cool with that? Like, these are just decisions you have to make. I don't buy properties I can't walk myself at night. That's just my personal opinion on buying properties. Lots of people do, and lots of people make a lot of money on real estate in areas that I wouldn't buy because I don't feel comfortable. That's just a personal thing, because if my kids ever get this property, or Zoe will be walking it one day on her own, I want her to be able to feel comfortable to do that. We do buy value add properties in the apartment space. That property, I tend to more be like a middle income, working class income, because those are the folks that rent because it's a necessity. We don't really want renters by choice. We want renters by need when you're landlord owners. Well, that's what I feel. These are all just personal opinions. Lots of folks buy A-class. Grant Cardone buys a lot of A-class apartments. Those are not renters by need. Those are renters by choice. He does very well in that space. It just depends on where, what you feel comfortable with. So we are B-class value add buyers for apartment buildings. He likes to be A-class, some B-class. I have a lot of friends that are C-class Section 8 buyers, and they do very well in that space. So it's just personal opinion, like where you are in your life, what you have, who's your team, who can go out there. Do you have a property management company? Who's collecting the rents? Do you feel comfortable? Is there a lot of crime? Are you going to be able to go there, do your thing? Like, it's up to you, so.
I was going to ask you about that piece of it. So we own about half of our buildings right now. And we have a maintenance team in one of our cities, but not in the other ones. So as far as like when you're owning buildings and you lease them back, either as a business owner or as mostly like not as the business owner, as you're just a property owner, what does the team look like? Because you're not going to be the one that's going in and fixing the leak. You're not going to be the one that's
Well, so some people do. Some people take that route, Rachel. And that's okay, especially if you live in that city and you're handy and you have 4 properties in the area and that is your job and you create real estate professional status through it, save your income, because you can write. If you claim a real estate professional status, you have to have 750 hours of real estate operations. There's a whole bunch around it, but it's an election. Ask your tax consultant. That's where I'm going to leave that. But if you want to do things like that to eradicate that 30% of your income, then you have to be actively managing and involved. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get bigger or you're in other states, you can't be, right? So like we couldn't manage properties from Omaha when I was commuting and Bo wasn't even there. So you can call in a property management company that can help you. You still need to be on top of them. It is not hands-free. It is not, because you're managing all the things, but you can create your LLC for your business, your LLC for your property. In between, you can create a property management company that you either manage the properties from, pay your children, do all your things because they will probably be helping you rake leaves, stuff like that. And if you want to hire a property management company, you allocate 3%. Okay, 3% of the revenue has to go to the property management company, and that property management company is hired out. So that's how much money you have to hire out.
Okay.
So the total aggregate revenue, part of your 30% bottom line, 25%, 20%, you have to take 3% of that out and allocate it to a property management company. And then they will manage the properties for you and take care of the bigger stuff. You can still be involved. And because triple net is nice, we don't have occupancy issues. We don't have multi-units and multi-tenants normally. So it's a lot easier for a management company to manage. So you can maybe even push 2%, but I'm always safe. I charge myself, my property management company, I charge 3%. And then whether 3 or 2 goes out depends on what I can, get. We actually just hired for Omaha. We had 10 locations and we hired 1 full-time property manager, and he just worked for us and he was on a W-2. Now, if he wasn't able to keep up, but for triple net, like we were only 1 tenant owners, right? So it was fine. But if I had like a plaza, a shopping center, an apartment building, I would need to have a company. You know what I mean? Because you're dealing with leasing and occupancy and vacancy and expenses and making sure everybody is in the right, doing the right thing. But with triple net, like say, you open a bunch of businesses in another state, you either hire someone on full time, and pending what that looks like financially, it may be better to hire a property management company. So I would kind of look at weighing all of those options, but generally 3% of revenue, in your building and maintenance expenses, it should go towards property management, whether that's to you or to someone else.
Right. So meaning like the property's revenue, not the business revenue.
Yes. 3% of the property's annual revenue. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
So not the net, the gross, because your net is part of having that in the expenses, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's good. That's helpful, because I know if you're like my husband, who's very like thinks of all the details and thinks of everything that I'm just like, just do it. It's great. He's, those types of people are thinking, well, who's going to maintain it? And how much is that going to cost us? And we can't maintain all of these buildings. And, so that is part of the risk when you're looking to invest, is thinking about the time that's going to go into it.
Right. And time is money, right? So a lot of times so the biggest mindset switch between owning in one state, in your own little circle, and your own companies is that your time can generally be worth it. Not out of state, unless, because like, for example, you buy an estate that's an 8-hour drive, just making an idea. You're driving 8 hours there. That's 16 hours. How much would you need to pay someone to make that worth it before you even start doing any work, right? Then the work, the materials, the things you have to keep on hand there, the storage, the blah, 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 blah. It's going to be more than 3%, especially if you have numerous locations, right? So it just depends, I think, where you're at, but scalability, part of that is execution and strategy. And we talk about that a lot. Strategy when you're scaling has to change. It can't be the strategy you're using, especially if you're going into geographical diverse areas, because you're not able to be there. And you shouldn't have to have someone from this state go to this state unless it makes sense, right? So if it's a 2-hour drive, it's a different story, or 1.5, or like all of ours were within an hour. So he could service all of them. He could literally go to all 10 locations in one day if he had to, you know what I mean? Although that would never happen.
Our maintenance team manages Helena and Bozeman. That's an hour and a half. Right. But it's Utah that now we're like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah, because you don't, it's not, the return on time is not gonna pan out.
Right.
So yeah. So I think those are just things that, you can keep in mind on even your return on life, or Eric's, or whoever's going to be doing the maintenance. I'm like a disaster today, pulling out earbuds and the freaking computer is flying. But yeah, so we just have to make sure that at the end of the day, it's worth it. So yeah.
I'm just looking at your hair thinking I can't wait until I get my hair, because now my hair, what is happening?
And I'm having a good hair day, so especially should piss you off, by the way.
It really pisses me off.
Right? If you're having a good hair day, that is really the ticket, right? When you have those good hair days, you're like, dang, this is awesome. So, but yeah, so, and if you have any questions, obviously we'll do our one-on-one, but basically, allocate at least the 3%. Sometimes you got to do more because it's not enough. So because if you're making 400 grand, it's like 13 grand. That's not going to give you a person, but it could give you a property management company, because you're not going to need 80 hours a week. Right. So again, or you have a handyman in the area that can be on call. We did that for some of our locations in Canada. Like they would do a group, and we would call Grant or whatever, we'd say, hey, anytime we need you, we text you. And he has like 4 hours to get back to us unless it was an emergency. You know what I mean? And so he would go in after school or whatever and fix whatever is needed. And he was $25 an hour. So that's really advantageous if you can find a really good person. It's finding someone you can trust and rely on. That is really the ultimate. If you have like someone at your school that lives in the area, that's, partner is really handy, then they can make some extra cash. That is the ultimate idea. But it doesn't always happen. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think that was good. I mean, we were all over the place today.
I know.
Rach and Julz fashion.
It's like we had a phone conversation. This is exactly, we're like, you know what? We'll just talk how we normally do. And that's all over the place. 25 tabs open.
We were on the phone yesterday, and I'm like, our phone conversations are so fun. We should just talk like we talk.
I know, because we just address like so many things in one conversation, right? And so it's like, but it's really all different things that can be valuable to different folks. So like if you're listening in for business advice, I think there was some business advice today. If you're listening in for like personal hair, don't look at my nails. They all fell off during surfing. I'm giving them a break right now. Oh, I also want to talk about these because a lot of people, sorry, I'm going to do that before we leave, but a lot of people ask me wherever I go about my jewelry. My friend Lisa, who is awesome, she got me my first stack. It's Buddha Girl. It's a funny way of spelling Buddha Girl, but anyways, it's Buddha Girl online. They come in stacks. They are waterproof. They're not hard. People think they're hard. They're like flexy. They're awesome. You can wear them in the pool, on the beach. Anyways, this ring comes from there too. It's amazing. They've lasted me years. Like I can't even tell you how many years I've had these for, but I have all the colors. And I just wanted to let you know while I'm wearing them today, because someone's going to say, where did you get those bracelets? And I didn't talk about it. So we should probably put these links up at some point, but for now we'll just
tell you. You're a fidgeter like Julie and I are, it's a good
It is a very good thing. Yes. So anyways, and the rings I love. I don't know if you can see, but they're adjustable. So it doesn't matter. Like, you know how you buy rings and you're like always afraid they're not going to fit, and you can like make it fit any finger. So I love, like, sometimes I want to like change it and be like a pointer finger wearer. Anyways, so that's just an aside. But anyways, thank you for listening. Health, wealth, and happiness tips today. I think, Rachel, what do you think?
Oh, okay.
Happiness is jewelry. So there's a tip for that.
Yeah, I think health is, taking the time to focus on your beauty, because I think beauty is important and it makes you feel better. And I think that
I love you.
healthier. Does it not?
This picture is so cute. Beauty. Health is beauty.
It is.
We're not vain at all. Health is beauty. Take time to be beautiful, everyone. I love it.
It is. Okay. What is wealth?
Well, we talked a lot about wealth today. So triple net investing, real estate investing, creating a seal. Creating a seal. That's awesome. Creating a sale leaseback situation that works for you, that is realistic for upon sale or whatever. And yeah, just do the right thing. So like set yourself up.
Don't buy adjustable rate mortgages on $3 million buildings.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you have to when you don't have other choices. Just make sure that you line up other choices, right? So like fix it when you can, and because sometimes you've got to do what you got to do, and that's what we do as business owners, right? Like you had to do that. So you did it. And it was probably worth it even then, it's just we don't like to pay interest because we're a little bit of a frugal mommy situation here. But, and then health, wealth, happiness. Rachel, beauty makes Rachel happy.
Beauty also makes Julie happy. She just doesn't want to admit it.
I do. It does. Beautiful things do make me happy. Beautiful people and
my
beautiful
mantras is, and you will ask any of my directors and a lot of my teachers.
I am all about aesthetics. It's true.
Beautiful as it is functional. So
yes.
I
don't know how functional these are, but they're beautiful.
They're functional because they help you fidget.
Truth. Okay. Check. Anyways, yes. So have a great day, guys. Enjoy the summer. It's been raining here, so poopy, but yeah, it feels like spring this summer. I don't know.
Snow, which is terrible.
I saw somebody posted, it was a funny, but I don't think it's funny when you live in Montana, but it said, if you've missed snow, if you've been missing snow, head to Montana this week. And I was like, oh, nada. Rachel, we got to get you to the beach. Like, screw
I know. It's been way too long.
Yeah. So, but you have a lake that will now be icy. The heck?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, everyone, have a great day. We love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.